All right, so welcome to the Morphoses workshop. Just really briefly, what we do here, I'm just going to start with that. What we do at Morphoses is we are a soft skill training program. An online soft skill training program. We train young learners aged 6 to 17. That's the primary audience that we have at least, but it's, soft skill training, soft skills and learning soft skills is a journey that extends through your life, 18 plus adulthood, 50, any no any age truly. Learning soft skills never ends. So, on that note, that's what we do. This is what we're focusing on. Soft skills, in case any of you are not familiar with it, we did have a webinar last week. If you attended, then you are very intimately familiar with it. But if you're not familiar with it, soft skills are the untouchables. Soft skills, otherwise known as human skills, or social skills, or personal skills, are all the skills that you cannot have a pen and paper test for. Things like communication, teamwork, emotional intelligence, self-regulation, stress regulation, time management, etc., etc. All of these are categories. All these are categories of soft skills. Under emotional intelligence, there's a lot of things. Naturally, it's identifying your emotions, it's expressing them, it's managing them, etc. But today, we're specifically going to be focusing on the soft skills that are especially important for you in your fields. I understand most of you have a science background. We could perhaps take just a moment if you could write in the chat what discipline you are coming from and what discipline you are most interested in. You can answer whichever one you like, but in the chat, just write down what you're most interested in, what you're passionate about, and what you're trying to be a great professional at. Let's see. Bioinformatics. Amazing. Melika, is that right? I beg, correct my pronunciation. Great. Okay, thank you, Melika. Aram says bioinformatics, biotechnology. Yes, public health, community health. Wonderful. Molecular biology, biotechnology. All of these such amazing professions. Guys, wow. Data scientist, medical doctor, computer science, pharmaceutical science and pharmacy, biotechnology, bioinformatics. It's not far off from what I expected from you. Now, my background is in psychology and educational neuroscience. So I'm intimately familiar with these skills and how to develop them. Now, in all of the ones that you have mentioned, you need a certain degree of, well, you need some soft skills more than others. Primarily, all of the ones that you listed deal with a very interesting soft skill that's creative problem solving, naturally, and tolerance to uncertainty. You need tolerance to uncertainty because in all of these disciplines that you have just mentioned, bioinformatics, biochemistry, software engineering, data science, medical doctor, etc., all of these disciplines are continuously evolving. You're continuously getting new information and you're constantly prompted to keep learning as things get developed, as engineers come up with new solutions. So you need to be tolerant to this level of change. You need that kind of mental agility. So that's what we're going to be dealing with today. So, really quickly, again, welcome to the workshop. We're going to start with a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to break apart into breakout rooms just to get everyone comfortable with one another. We're going to play a challenge of getting to know each other. You'll just be prompted to come up with one mutual hobby and one mutual worry or like a big stressor in your lives, and that way you'll just get acclimated and you'll also get familiar with one another so that we can move into the harder, more difficult tasks. As I said, the primary goal will be soft skills. Now, something in my field, again, in science, in psychology and educational neuroscience, something that I severely lacked is the ability to role play scenarios, to actually understand the challenges that I would be facing in these disciplines and how to overcome them. Role playing is an incredible tool for reflection as well as for acquiring experience without actually having to go through the process of applying for a job and getting accepted and then going through training, etc. So that's what we will be doing today primarily, but with a fun Morphosis twist to it, naturally. So Here's what we're going to start with. I'm going to break you apart into breakout rooms. There is 15. Let's see some messages first. Yes. So, Yusuf said, I thought we had the class in Morphosis platform. Yes, we did want to have the class in the Morphosis platform. However, there were some technical difficulties, so we pivoted. That's another soft skill, right? Pivoting to be able to adjust to the tools and the resources and the situation at hand. So we're pivoting, we're going to run it here, but I promise the experience will be no worse than what it would have been in the Morphosis platform. So let's do the following. There's 16 people, so I'm going to create 4 rooms and we will assign everyone on random. All right, so you will have these 2 tasks. You are tasked, there will be 4 people in the room, in each room. You will have to find a hobby that everyone has in common. And the only criteria for the hobby is it has to be something that you love doing. All of you must love doing this one task. And then the second thing is what's a common worry that all of you have? I'm not going to give you any hints on how to solve either of them, so good luck. All right. What's a common hobby that you all identified? Let's hear someone, because for my great group, it was music and movies. Any other unique ones? You can write it in the chat or you can say it out loud.
We have music too in our group.
Was it a specific genre?
Oh, we didn't get to that.
It's okay, we didn't either. Reading. Nice. 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 That's good. But yeah, that's just one great tool, one easy way to get people comfortable with one another is to identify a common hobby. Because you have common interests that immediately puts you closer to the other person. Working for people's well-being. Oh, nice one, Arum. Nice. We got a meta answer in here as well, working for people's well-being. That's really good. Um, so yeah, I mean, definitely can keep the conversation going in the chat if you like. But wonderful. Thank you all so much for participating. Now, let's keep moving forward. We're going to start with a simple Menti. If you could all either scan the QR code, depending on whatever tool you have, if you can scan the QR code, or go to menti.com here. I'm going to share a different screen now. So go to menti.com and write the code, which is 53642785. There we go. So copy over from the chat, go to menti.com. I'm going to share the results as we go along. Oh, I think I mistyped the website. Oops. This one. The overarching theme of today is going to be interdisciplinarity. So, with that, before we begin, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, if you could go to that Menti, start entering your answers, I think you should be able to let me know if you encountered any technical difficulties. But what makes interdisciplinarity difficult? And just to clarify what interdisciplinarity means, in case any of you are not aware, and also to fill in the time while we gather some responses. Interdisciplinarity, as I explained in the webinar last week, is the act of communicating between disciplines. So if you're working in bioinformatics, for example, chances are you are an essential cog in the machine that is discovery in all kinds of biomedicine or epidemiology or truly anything in the line of health, etc. You're an essential cog in the machine, but this information needs to be communicated appropriately, and that's where soft skills comes in. How do we communicate information between disciplines? Are you able to access the Menti that I mentioned before? I don't know if you would like me to pull up the QR code again. Great. Great for an first answer, not being familiar with different concepts, misunderstanding different communication styles, all totally correct. But like, what are the reasons that you might not be able to communicate between different disciplines? Different languages and terminologies. Oh, I love these answers. Amazing. Keep them coming, friends. All right, different language terminologies, varying methodologies, resistance to change, huge one. Integration of knowledge, bringing together insights from different disciplines is complex for sure. All correct, different perspectives, complex collaboration, adapting to the working conditions as well, just sharing information, different opinions, cultural challenges, adapting to disciplines. All of these are absolutely right. So the reason that we started with this task is because I want you to start thinking about what makes this process hard. As I said, we're going to be role-playing the situations, so you will be facing all of these challenges as we go. But what the arguably the biggest challenges in these scenarios is the lack of context or the lack of communication or cultural differences, definitely. But most of the time, it's miscommunication and a lack in understanding. Because as scientists, we might not understand the perspective of, for example, an engineer. We might not understand what challenges and what obstacles the engineers faced. We just know what results we want to see. And therefore, that's what our priorities are. The Menti will remain up naturally, but I'm going to go back to sharing the presentation because we're going to keep going because I'm very excited to get started with the task. Oops, how did I do that? All right. I think you should all be seeing the Menti screen now. Okay, so we are going to start with our first task of the day. Our first task of the day is going to be as follows. Just to give you a little bit of context first before we get into the nitty-gritty, we'll start our workshop with an actual case. This entire workshop is built around actual case studies from you and the scenarios that Kasim provided, which are actual tangible examples. We're going to discuss three different cases. We'll spend maybe, depending on how time allows, we'll spend 20 to 30 minutes on each case. And we're going to start with the first scenario. As you see on the screen, those are just question prompts, but you'll have to listen to understand what the scenario is like. It's a collaborative problem-solving task in an interdisciplinary context, and your objective will be to come up with an effective solution while considering the perspectives of both scenario actors. So here's the scenario. My PhD is a system to collect wearable data for biomedical research teams. I don't know if you're aware of my PhD, but it's a wonderful tool. When the team first built the system back in 2020, they received a lot of impatient complaints from postdoc students and their research assistants that either the system didn't collect the data fully, or they could not find the data, or the application crashed. Let me make sure. Yeah, or the application crashed, and also they discovered that some of the frustration came from misaligned expectations of what the software is capable of. So we're going to divide, there's 17 of you, we're going to divide, or 16 of you, we're going to divide into two groups. There's going to be a software engineer and the biomedical research team. And I need both of teams to come up with answers to the questions that are on the screen. So what are the strengths in your hypothetical position concerning the research process? What are your weaknesses? What could have caused the data inaccuracy from your hypothetical perspective? So depending on whichever team you're on, think about what could cause the data inaccuracy in your opinion? And what do you think the other group is going to be blaming for said data inaccuracies? Once again, I'm going to create breakout rooms on random. So you might have nothing to do with engineering and be on the engineering team. So just good luck. Consider your perspective. Remember these questions. I will post them in the chat. I'm going to open the breakout rooms now. All right, people have come back. Great. So we're just going to take 1 minute, max two, to talk about the challenges that we came up with. So you have the biomed perspective, and then you have the engineer perspective. Now, again, what misunderstandings did you come up with between the teams? Let's get one person, at least one person from each team to talk about where were the expectation gaps? What was the blame that you expected from the other team? Be brave, my friends. I don't want to have to call anyone call anyone out.
Um, can I start? I think.
Please.
Okay. So our team was the biomed team, bioscientist, and one of my colleagues, he is Okyo Masidachi. I'm sorry if I said her name wrong. So he said that as a bioinformatician, there should be some kind of software or like components, I think engineering components that needs to be included in the hypothetical research. While I suggested that as like a totally biomed student, that we should make our uh, the list of requirements, we should be clear with that, and we should give those lists. For example, in this hypothetical research where we're talking about sleep, we could talk about like what the patient is doing right before they're sleeping, what they're eating, are they even using their phone, what time they sleep, and all that kind of basic information like age, gender, and all that stuff. Even ethnicity, if we're doing population-based study, could be included for the engineer, and they could make a database out of it, and we could then that makes easy for them to even make that kind of software, and easier for us to analyze our data and work efficiently. Thank you.
Good answer, Neha. Nice. Someone from the engineering team? Share your perspective. Oh, Aram said in the chat, very, very important too. Sorry to interrupt. Aram said, the biomed team might think that engineers lack enough the biological knowledge or biomedical knowledge, and we make wrong assumptions or skip thorough validation with experimental data. Malika says some concepts are challenging for me. I remember I had so much difficulty when I wanted to work on computational projects because there was a lot of things I needed to learn, which made me feel I can't do it. Yeah, the feeling of overwhelm is definitely a big one. Now, Malika, to your question, what would help you address that challenge and address that feeling of overwhelm? You can unmute and say it out loud if you're comfortable with it, but if you're not, that's okay as well. In the meantime, I'd also love to hear the perspective of someone from the engineering team. Think about what would have helped you. What would have helped you? What context do you think you as the engineer team might lack in this scenario? A silence is deadly, I know, but that's all right. We're going to start. We're going to move on to into a much more fun task soon. But really quickly, again, from the engineering side, I mean, what I heard from your team saying is you're most likely expecting the other team to blame your software, right? They're going to blame your software. They're going to blame how it works, and they're going to be not understand that they might not be able to understand what goes into developing such a new piece of software. Now, the reality of the situation of the program and the program and the tool of my PhD was actually that in software development, running tools requires trial and error, requires troubleshooting, and requires adjustment. And that's the context that the biomed, the postdoc students and the researchers could be lacking because they don't know what goes into development, the engineering side of things. So, and also it's also clear that not having the data or not having accurate data could present a challenge for the biomed. So you really need to consider both sides of the perspective and address them, but there needs to be clarity in both expectation and understanding. So a really good solution that I heard from team two, which was I think the biomed group, is or at least one of the groups was to give a presentation, to give a clarifying presentation or statement to the other team to teach them about the essential components of the project and the steps that go into the development. Because if you have matching expectations for the software and if you have clarity in what you absolutely cannot compromise on in terms of data or in terms of delivery, then that way you can have clear communication. Yes, Nimaya says we should clearly communicate with the team and what they think is the issue in our software and analyze the situation afterwards. Clear communication, direct communication, definitely, and choosing the right words. That's something that you can practice in your own time as well. Think about how you might go about communicating this information. So, since we have completed the first task, we can now move on to the second scenario that is much more fun, in my opinion. So, the second scenario is as follows. The title and the context for this is whether we want something to be fast, flawless, or if we just want to prioritize the project being finished. The story for this is that in the past 3 years, Dr. Amir Bahmani has been teaching a class called Cloud Computing for Biology and Healthcare at Stanford University. The class had both undergraduate and graduate students like computer science, biology, data science, etc. And when students collaborated on team projects, there was an interesting pattern identified. Regardless of the discipline the students came from, they would aim to get perfect results. Now, as you know, to get perfect results, you need a lot of time, and you might compromise on other things in order to get perfection. So they frequently missed deadlines, and frequently without communicating this to the rest of the team. In short, teams in interdisciplinary settings often struggle when individuals prioritize perfect results over progress and collaboration. But effective teams, however, communicate regularly, align on goals, and hold each other accountable to ensure the success of the entire group. So here's what we're gonna do. To practice what that feels like, we're gonna play a game. And yes, the game is exactly what you see on the screen. Your goal in this game is to come up with a viable plan to establish a research lab on an island where an epidemic has spread. So you are on an island, you're the only people on the island, and you can take whatever you decide on and take whatever items, objects, tools, etc. you decide on. But your goal is to identify the origin, the symptoms, and treatment of this epidemic. You do not have any information at the moment, so you need to plan 3 areas. The mission and focus area, so the what? So you're building a research lab. What will your lab prioritize? Is it studying the disease? Is it testing the treatment? Is it educating the community because there's a community on the island. So what are you going to prioritize? How? So it's about identifying critical supplies, personnel, technology, the teams that you need, the items and the products that you might need to order. If you use Google and find the cheapest options, your team will get +1 point naturally. And then finally, communication strategy. So you need to create a plan for coordinating the lab and the authorities, so authorities on the island, to communicate what's up on the island, how to treat it, where it came from, etc. So that's your plan. Set up a lab, understand how you might go about researching and what tools you will need to do this research, and then finally, how you might communicate this information, how you might communicate the information about the epidemic to the rest of the island. Once again, I will be breaking you apart into breakout rooms because obviously I really enjoy breakout rooms. But before we do that, we're going to do the following. There's a twist to this. One second. You will be prompted to join a breakout room, and your breakout room will have a specific title. Now, I want you to look at the title. I will join and I will explain why your breakout room will have that title. But for now, I'm just going to open the rooms, and I want you to look at the title and think about why it's titled that way. Join. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, let's see how this works over here. If you click on the link in the chat, you should all be able to access the Miro board. Let's see if this works as it's meant to. Can you all click on that link? You should be able to just join anonymously. It shouldn't ask you for much of anything. Is that right? We're good? Great. Great, great, great. Okay. I think we're going to divide into, ideally it would be 4 teams, but that's all right. I think we shall divide into 3 teams to keep it interesting. All of you know your roles in the scenario, right? So your main thing, you will all win if you come up with the solutions you believe in. And you're going to have 10 minutes for this task. So whatever you come up with in 10 minutes, that'll be your final answer. I have put the questions up at the top. Again, the scenario is you're on an island, there's an epidemic, there's a lot of people living over there. You need to decide on how you're going to achieve all of those. Good luck.
Oh, my network was bad.
No worries, Joshua. I have a really quick question before we move forward with the next activity. Like, you can write it in the chat again if you like, because we're going to keep going, but I will ask this question as well. How fun was this for you, or how interesting was playing through the scenario for you? You can write in the chat. There are no hard feelings, so be as honest as you like. We want the feedback so that the next workshop can be much better. So be as honest as you can. And on that note, while you all share the feedback over there, I'm also going to continue with the presentation. So, as we were discussing before, teamwork is a balance of individual expertise and opinions while considering the greater good for the team, right? You need trust, and so trust and progress take precedence over perfection in any given scenario. So, and also enjoying the process, right? Just having fun with whatever it is you're doing. And it's frustrating to work on a team with particular people. If you abided to the roles, or also if you want to think of the roles that you were assigned prior, just on a more meta level, just think about it yourself. Which role disrupted the process the most, or which role do you think would disrupt your process in a real world scenario? I will also write you a reminder of the roles just in a moment. These are the roles that I have put in the chat. So you had the meticulous ones, that are very concerned with the details. There's the lone wolf that's on a team but working on their own. There's the perfectionist that wants everything to be perfect, and the overcommunicator that asks a lot of questions. Which of the roles do you think would be most disruptive on a team when trying to deliver results? Promise, you said lone wolves. Why is that?
Okay, for me, the lone wolves usually don't take the opinions of other of their team members into account in whatever how they attempt to solve the problem. I think that could be very disruptive for a team. Remember, for a team to work, everybody has the part to play, and there should be that synergy between every member of the team, and everybody should know their role and respect every role of each and every member of the team. So I think they are not that helpful in it.
I tend to agree. Okay, Masalachi, you said lone wolf as well. Do you want to add anything to what Promise said?
Not really. I think he hits the nail on the head.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I saw Abdul and Neha say over communicators. Do you want to elaborate on why? Why are they worse than the lone wolves?
Um, from personal experience, I'll just share here. I had this project when in my bachelor's, we had to make something, but the people just kept on asking a lot of questions and questions. We never came to a certain point where we could agree with everyone. We kept on disagreeing, and it never. We had to, in the end, break the group because it wasn't working. Nothing was, so we hated it, and I think that's the worst. It derails the track for at least coming to a point where you can you know asking too much question derails you, and you get so lost with the thought of mind, and then you're like you cannot come to a point to agree.
I 100% agree with you. Yeah, poor synergies, just what I said. Yeah, totally right. Abdul, is there anything you want to add to what Neha said? Great answer, by the way, Neha.
Uh, what I just want to add is most attempts for the over communicators, you usually have this lack of trying to communicate the solution rather than actualizing the solution for over communicators.
Definitely good ones on both. And Iram also says in the chat, while communication is key, asking too many questions and giving excessive updates, again, derails the focus and productivity of the team and creates unnecessary distractions, slowing decision making and leading to frustration. Of course, because we don't want too much of anything, right? So since we are tight on time now and we still have one more scenario that we will play through, without further ado, thank you so much for participating so actively in this one, by the way. This is going to be the last scenario of the day. And the title is Principles versus Prestige. Great job on the two scenarios. Now, I would just like to prompt you to assume whichever role you want or whichever role you associate most with yourself. We also can try doing this without roles altogether and just discuss what you would do in this case scenario. The roles are on the screen. If you want to debate it from the role perspective, please do. If you prefer to just discuss it naturally, that's also totally fine. But the lead researcher is essentially the one that wants the project's overall success. So the lead researcher would be prioritizing reputation and recognition. So the project can't be delayed too much, but you're afraid as a lead researcher, you would be afraid that if you publish wrong results, you'll get judged. The postdoc student, however, on the other hand, wants to use this project for, their grant or their job or for the prestige. So they want quick and they want good results that show, wow, and they pop out. That's what a postdoc student or a researcher would want because you want that acclaim, you want that success. The next one is the honest lab assistant, because the honest lab assistant respects the numbers and prioritizes academic integrity. So you want to be honest, you want to be true to the results. And finally, that there is the department chair. Again, you can choose whichever one you want. And the department chair would want the department to look good with the results. So whatever results get published, they would want the department to look good. So here's the situation. You have just conducted a study. Again, totally up to you what the study's about, whatever you're most comfortable with. 55% of the data suggests that, wow, it suggests that you have found a breakthrough. However, 25% is inconclusive, and 20% of your data actually contradicts the hypothesis. So that's the situation. Now, your questions is when and how will you publish the results? And how would you divide your credit among the roles that I mentioned previously? Now, for this, again, we will be breaking apart into breakout rooms. Let's do 3 breakout rooms again. I'm going to post the roles as well as the question. Actually, let me do that right now. I'm going to put the roles and the questions in the chat so that you can keep track even after I break you apart into breakout rooms. I think you should all be able to see the chat, but if not, no worries. I'll jump in and I will repost them. All right. Go on ahead, my friends. I look forward to hearing what you have to say about this scenario, because I'm not sure what I would do either. I'm glad to see everyone back in the main room. Okay, we had 3 different teams. And now again, as usual, I mean, someone from the teams, I just want to know what you decided on the following questions. Did you decide to uphold academic integrity? So did you publish the results? Did you not? What did you decide? Let's start there. All the questions are on the screen. You can choose whichever one of these questions you want to answer, but I just want to hear if the teams had differing answers. What are we doing to the results?
I think in our team we decided to agree on the results because we thought that it would give insights to the public as well as, particularly in my area, we are formulating different therapeutic agents for the patients. So publishing like wrong results, like if we didn't include the contradictory results, that might like compromise patient health. That would be like a huge risk and like a major consequences. Also, we think in my undergraduate research study, I had to like develop so many formulation to come to a stable formulation. And during that period, I was so discouraged. But the thing was like, then I thought like with that, like I could go to a negative research as well if I couldn't formulate like a stable formulation, because like I have done so many trials and I have so many data, but there is no data on the out there like saying you shouldn't do this method. In that case, you wouldn't get a stable formulation. So I think it is important, like we should publish, as well as I think honesty is very important in this case.
Definitely agreed. Again, for everyone in the audience, I'm sure you came to this at some point as well, but publishing negative research, so things that didn't work, is arguably sometimes even more important than publishing affirmative research. Because in negative research, you also give the indications, everything that Nimaya mentioned naturally, and you give indications of things that did not work, things, inaccuracies that occurred. So that also, generally for research, huge benefit. Anyone else from the other teams wants to share what decision, if you came to a contrary decision or the same one, what decision you came to?
Hi.
Yes, Neha, tell us.
So, we had this a bit of discussion here, and we were talking about if we should. My teammates, they said we should, and I said okay, we should, but I felt like we shouldn't exactly focus on the the negative, that is like the 20% data is inconsistent or we're not sure about it. And I told them we should focus mainly on the 55%. We should put that up in front in bold if we could. But then we could add it in our limitations that this was like 20% was still we were lacking maybe some database or something. I don't know. So we said this way, that way we showcase our positive side more, and the negative side was later on. Maybe if the reader was interested in research, reading our research, it could have gone to their eyes, but like that's what we decided.
I think that's what the typical decision is of the people as well, right? You showcase, you want to show the positive, you want to show the wows. Are there any ethical considerations that you discussed in this process? Because it is a little shaky,
Yes.
potentially. Hmm.
As for me, I won't publish that. I won't publish it because I don't want to be wrongly judged. And based on my own ethical aspect in my field as a public health scientist, and we don't publish such thing. If you are, for instance, in epidemiological aspect, a disease for outbreak, maybe you are trying to give a ratio of what happened, and the prevalence disease, it does not tally with those who are suffering for that certain disease, and you have made the whole community or the society, they maybe they have engaged in the trauma already, and you have put inflicted fear in them, and that can even destroy them before the disease will attack them. So in that aspect, there's no need to publish, except as for my own, you recommend to your researchers, I will have to rerun this test in order for us to know where we are headed, so that we will not give wrong information to the world and to the society.
All very valid answers. Again, ideally, depending on how sensitive the research is, how health sensitive, right? How sensitive for health reasons, you would want to be as honest as possible. But naturally, if the research does not carry health risks or any such things, perhaps your answers would be different. So that's definitely an interesting question, an interesting note for myself in the future to specify what kind of research we're conducting. Now, as we are approaching the end of our workshop, time-wise, I'm going to ask you to go to Mentimeter one more time because we're going to do a final evaluation, and there will also be a small section with feedback for myself because, as I said, I want to make sure that this is as useful and as fun or interesting for you as possible. So I want to know how this workshop could be more useful, could be more fun, could be more interesting for you. If there's insights or fun facts you would rather hear from me, or if you liked the discussion type sessions. Truly, I mean, there will be an open-ended section, and I'm not going to broadcast the answers, nor will I know who answered the question. So be as honest, as brutally honest as you are comfortable with. So again, either scan the QR code that's on the screen. I will keep it up for one more minute, and we're going to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes answering the questions and talking about them. And there will be 2 questions that will be an evaluation that I will not broadcast on the screen. So again, I wrote in the code. I wrote the code in the chat. I can also write the direction. There we go. I think this should be the website as well. Scan the QR code. I will start broadcasting the results in a moment.
The link is not actually working. I wanted to use the link.
Oh, let me see. I will share the link with you in a second. The link may have adjusted. Here we go. I'll put the link in the chat for everyone to use. So if you did not have time to scan the QR code, please go to the link You can also go to the page and use the code, whichever option you prefer. Is it okay now, Joshua?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so then we can start with the first question, which is how can academic teams foster a culture of mutual respect, fairness, and integrity? How could you align in this sense? It's a very broad question, I know, but these questions are just to kind of get your gears rolling. It's a topic that you should be thinking about, even if you don't have an answer right now immediately. It's a topic that you should keep in mind throughout your professional development. How would you foster a culture of mutual respect, fairness, and integrity? Immediately, we get such a wonderful answer. Establish clear values and expectations, recognize and appreciate contributions, embrace diversity and inclusion, honestly communicate roadblocks and discuss solutions. 100%. We're hearing communication a lot, right? Effective communication. And just to really quickly clarify for everyone, also effective communication includes the concept of establishing grounds of communication. So establishing grounds means adding and giving context to the situation, clarifying expectations. All of this goes into effective communication. So when you do have to work in interdisciplinary teams, because inevitably you will have to do so as you advance in your career, you should think about what context the other teams may be missing, things that you know but the other teams might not. Encourage accountability, huge one as well. Every individual on a team must be held accountable. Value contributions, foster transparency, huge one. Fostering transparency is definitely a huge one. And upholding ethical standards, creating clear guidelines for collaboration. Absolutely, each individual's contribution must be recognized and acknowledged. And giving and receiving constructive feedback is a highly underrated skill for establishing academic teams and fostering a supportive culture, because you should be able to give feedback as well as receive it and give it constructively. So just giving vague feedback and saying something is missing is not helpful, but sharing a vision, sharing expectations, and clear and honest communication definitely is essential. And acknowledge contributions. Yeah, absolutely right. Let's move on to the next question, which is what can you as an individual do? So you alone, what can you do to ensure effective collaboration? So this is actionables, right? So we're not just talking about values, establishing values, but what are the things that you could do to make sure that you communicate, that you work well in collaboration with other disciplines and individuals from other disciplines? It's a tougher question for sure, but for myself, for example, something that I've always tried to do when collaborating with, for example, other neuroscientists, while I myself have been focusing on education research, is provide context. That's something that I have always tried to do. So establishing context, establishing why I'm doing the research and what the purpose of my research is, has always led to great results, because by understanding the why, the team that I was collaborating with was better able to help me. And this works in every discipline, not just sciences, not just sciences, but truly every discipline and every workplace as well. Yes, establish clear objectives and share goals. Be patient and adaptable. I like that one. That's a very personal goal, and I really like that one as well. We should all aspire to be flexible and adaptable, especially in this day and age where AI is taking over so many of our processes. We need to be adaptable. Oh, I'm loving these answers, guys. Always be ready to hear and learn from others. Good. Actively reach out and follow up to understand the challenges that colleagues face. create robust communication channels, sorry, to ensure effective collaboration, actively listen, define roles and responsibilities. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So all of these answers, again, these are just two questions that I want you to think about throughout your journey. Again, not just in science, but any job that you have or any hobby, volunteer work, whatever, just think about what context might be lacking across the disciplines, across different teams, and think about what you as an individual can do. And definitely one of the big ones is, again, giving and receiving feedback and collaborating by being patient and adaptable, for sure. So on that note, again, do think about this. I will be reading all of these answers again and again, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and I'm going to change the slide because now I want to know your feedback about specifically the session. There's going to be two questions now, and there's going to be one open-ended question that I will show in 1 or 2 minutes as soon as you've all had an opportunity, or some of you at least have had an opportunity to answer this. I want to know how fun the session was for you, how likely you are to attend such a workshop in the future. Again, I'll keep it up for a minute or two. Be as honest as you can. I can't see who's answering what. I'm just very curious because, again, I want the feedback. There's 7 answers right now. There's 12 of you in the session. If we could get to 10, that would be amazing. If you could get 3 more responses, that would be absolutely perfect. But again, in 1 minute, I am going to switch to the last slide because the last slide is arguably the most important one for myself. Great. Thank you everyone for participating. So the last slide is going to be the classic feedback question. I want to know how you would like the session improve, like what would improve your experience? What would you like to see more of? What would make it more useful for you? Because we are thinking about hosting more similar workshops, but I would like to factor in all the feedback that you might have. Because again, I want this to be as valuable. I mean, you dedicated 2 hours of your time out of your day to attend this session, and I really appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time. But I would like to know what would make these 2 hours worthwhile for you. The future workshops will naturally be different. They will obviously be better, but I want to know how you think they could be better. Please do let me know. You can take your time to answer this question, of course, because we will also move forward with closing as we are at time. I really appreciate all of you. I loved getting to know you all, and finding mutual hobbies, as well as listening to your opinions about various topics. I learned a lot from you. I hope you enjoyed the experience, and I hope that you have taken whatever is of value for yourself from the session as well. So please do complete these feedback for the final question in your own time whenever you're available. And otherwise, if you have to go, again, thank you so much for attending the session. And I hope to see you sometime in the future. I'm sure some of our paths will cross at some point in the future as well. So thank you so much for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye, everyone.